and we're going to look at notes on color. Here's the worksheet linked right here. So if you need that, you can click on that. I'm going to go through this Google Slides while I fill out the worksheet along with you to help you do it. So let's start. Let me make it big. Hold on. All right, so this is the color wheel. It's the same order as the color wheel on your worksheet. For whatever reason, most color wheels are shown with yellow at the top, but it's always the same order, even if yellow is not the one at the top. The reason that it's in the order is the same order as the rainbow. It tells you which colors make other colors. So red, yellow, and blue are the primary colors. When you're painting, you cannot make those colors. You have to have them. You can make the other colors. Sorry. So red is here and yellow is here. The reason that they are there and these colors are here is because these are the colors that you can make when you mix red and yellow together. So when you just add a little bit of red, you've got yellow, orange. The more red you add, you get orange, and then you get red, orange, and that's why it's getting closer to the red. Same thing between yellow and blue. When you mix yellow and blue together, you get green. If there's more yellow, it's yellow, green. If there's more blue, it's blue, green. Same thing between red and blue, you get violet. Violet and purple are the same color, it's just two different names for the same color. So red violet and blue violet. So we are going to paint the color wheel on our worksheet, and I'm going to do it along with you. So the thing with watercolor is when you paint two shapes that are side by side, if they're both still wet, they bleed together. So we're going to start by painting every other one so that it has time to dry before we paint the ones in between it. So with your watercolor set, I've got my paintbrush, I've got water. So you can't just put it in here and start painting. You have to have water, a wet paintbrush to add to this to get it to work. So we're going to start with yellow. I'm going to put the paintbrush in water. Some things that you guys should be aware of, like, see how, like, it's hard to show you on the camera, but I get little water beads up here on my paintbrush, and I can be like painting, and then all of a sudden a water bead drips down, and it just totally screws up what I'm doing. So just be aware of that. You might want to kind of tap some of those water beads off or wipe it off the side so you don't have excess water. So I'm going to put my paintbrush in the yellow, and I'm going to start painting this one. So let me show you how I hold my hand. I try to point the edge of my paintbrush towards what I'm painting. So if I'm painting this edge, I'm trying to point it toward the edge, and this helps me stay in the line. I'm also barely touching the paper. These paintbrushes are a little larger than what I would like to use, but I'm using the paintbrush that was in the kit, which is the one you have, so that I'm kind of doing what you have. So I'm outlining it very carefully, and then I'm going to basically fill it in. So I've got my yellow one done. I'm going to skip yellow, green, and go to green. But before I do that, I have to rinse off my paintbrush. I'm trying to go slow, but I wanted to say that in case any of you were done. I didn't want you to go straight to doing that. So I'm going to do it now, but I'm going to slow down in just a second. I'm going to rinse my paintbrush. I'm going to wipe it on the edge, and then I'm going to put it in the green. And then I'm going to skip yellow, green, and go straight to green. I'm going to try to paint really slow so that you guys aren't rushing to catch up with me. You can turn the paper as you're painting. For me, it's easier to turn the paper than it is for me to turn my hand. All right, so Jalen's in the same room as me, so I can see. Are you done with the green one, or are you still painting the green one? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, she's done. If I start getting way too fast, you guys let me know. I'm going to blue. So in the set, if you have this set, the blue is right next to the green. So it's yellow, green, that's blue, and the one next to it is purple, even though it looks like it might be black, it's purple. So the blue is right next to the green. All right, I'm going to rinse that off and start in with the violet. It looks like black, but I promise it's violet, unless you just have a different paint set than me. And especially in the middle, I'm barely touching my paintbrush to the paper to try to keep it in that small little area. Oh, and I can see like this bead of water that's about to slide down my brush, and it would have made a big blob on my paper. So you got to keep an eye out for that. I'm not going to be taking points off if you do go out of the lines, but it's just a good time to practice that hand control. All right, I'm going to move on to red. Jalen, what color are you on over there? Okay. All right, I'm going to pause for a second to let some of you catch up. When I finish I'm going to do orange next though. When I finish the orange, I'm not going to go straight to yellow green. We're going to move on to something else and give this a minute to dry before we start painting the rest of the color wheel. All right, I'm going to rinse this out and paint the orange. Those of you that are using colored pencils or crayons, you probably have the colors we've been using so far. Whenever we get to the rest of it, like yellow orange or red orange, you can layer your different colors. So if you don't have a yellow orange colored pencil, you'll be able to color a layer of yellow and then color a layer of orange on top and go back and forth until you get it as opaque as you want it to be. And I'll show you how to mix the watercolors to get the ones you want. So that's what it should look like so far. If any of you are like super behind, let me know in the chat. Jalen, are you already done with orange? Okay. All right. I've got one person telling me they're super behind. Anybody else super behind? I can also post this video on Canvas after the Zoom is over so that you guys can go back and fill in the stuff that you missed. All right, I'll try to slow down just a little bit, but I'm going to keep going. Hold on. Go back to the notes on color. So looking at this, first be aware that this is not completely set up exactly like your worksheet. So whereas your worksheet does have primary colors and secondary colors, on your worksheet here it says neutral colors. It doesn't say intermediate colors. So be careful with that. I don't want you to color something wrong. Okay, so the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. You cannot make those colors. You have to have them. When you have those colors, red and yellow, yellow and blue, blue and red, you can mix them to make the secondary colors. So it's like the first color is the second colors. Primary means first. And then if you mix a primary color and a secondary, then in between those two, you get a tertiary color. And sometimes people call them intermediate colors. So I wanted you to know both words. So those hyphenated colors like yellow, green, red, orange, blue, green, those are all tertiary colors. You can't just hyphenate any color and call it a tertiary color. You cannot hyphenate blue, orange and call it a tertiary color. They are opposites on the color wheel. They have to be close to each other on the color wheel. Like blue and purple make blue, violet, or blue and violet make blue, violet. Blue and green make blue, green. Yellow and green make yellow, green. Okay. So on our worksheet, the next thing that we're going to paint are the primary color circles up here. So I'm going to rinse out my brush and I'm going to paint red in this one. Oh, I'm about to get a little water bead. Red right here. Rinse out my paintbrush. Yellow in the middle. And then blue. All right, for the secondary colors. When you mix red and yellow, you get orange. So orange is a secondary color. When you mix yellow and blue, you get green. And then when you mix red and blue, you get purple or violet, whatever you want to call it. All right, don't do neutral colors yet. That violet looks blue on the screen, but I promise it's purple. All right. This isn't quite dry yet. I'm going to give it another minute before we paint our tertiary colors. Neutral colors, let's do those. Neutral colors can be found in a variety of browns, blacks, grays, and whites. So it can be any kind of brown, like beige or cream or whatever, any shade of gray. So those are just what we consider neutral colors. Those come up a lot in interior design, things like that. Let's paint those. All right, so for the brown, you have a brown in your watercolor, so you can paint that circle brown. Rinse that out. you have a black. That's the one beside the red on the other end. Now to paint gray, let me show you how I would paint gray. I'm gonna put just a little bit of water right here, and I'm just gonna barely tap my paintbrush in the black so that it's mostly water and just a little bit of black. And that's gonna be my gray. And if you want it to be darker, you can always just tap it again and add it to the water and make it a little bit darker. It's just gonna have to dry like that. And then the last one's white, so you can just leave it white. All right, I think we're probably good to paint the rest of this, so we're gonna do this now. All right, so to paint, okay, let's talk about colored pencils. If you have colored pencils, you're gonna layer them. So we'll start with yellow green. You'll do a layer of yellow, lightly, you don't press hard, and then you do a layer of green, and you go back and forth with yellow and green until you get it as opaque as you want. With mixing paint, you always start with the lighter of the two colors. So we're mixing yellow and green together. Yellow is a lighter color. So I'm gonna put water right here. This is gonna be a light mixing tray. I'm gonna add some yellow. So I've got yellow. I'm gonna rinse off my paintbrush so I don't mix up the paint colors. Then I'm gonna just barely tap it into the green because green is a darker color. I don't need very much. And then I'm gonna mix it into that yellow. And there's my yellow green. And I'll use that, and try not to stick your hand in all that other stuff that we've been painting. I'm gonna paint my yellow green. The next one that I'm gonna do is blue-green. So, okay, if I'm making blue-green, does blue-green already have blue and yellow in it? Yes, because you need yellow to make green. So I can still use this color and just basically add more blue to it, and it's okay. Just to kind of show you better how it works, though, I'm gonna just make it green first. So, oh, it looks kind of brown on my screen, but it's a really pretty green in real life. So this is green. I'm gonna rinse out my brush, and I'm gonna get a little blue to add to it to make it blue-green. I swear it's prettier in real life. If you do what I just did, I finally had a water bead drop. I'm just gonna dab it with my paper towel and hope it's not too bad. So that was blue-green. So it was green and you add a little bit of blue to it. I'm gonna do blue-violet next, but I'm gonna have to start with a new color. I can't add it to this because this is green, which means it has yellow in it. Yellow is too far away from violet on the color wheel. If I try to put violet in, it's gonna end up being brown. So I'm gonna have to start with blue and add violet to it. So those of you that are ahead, you could do that. I'm gonna slow down just a minute to let some people catch up. I'm rinsing my brush out. I'm gonna put a little water right here. I'm gonna dip it in the blue. Oh, you guys can't see. Dip it in the blue and add it to the water. So I'm starting with blue. I'm gonna make blue violet. Blue is the lighter color. It's lighter than purple. So I started with blue. I rinsed out my paintbrush. And now I'm gonna add some violet to it. And it still looks pretty blue on the screen, but it looks more, oh, dang it, I just put it back in blue. It's more violet in real life. So once you get the blue violet that you like, you can paint that over here. if this was actually watercolor paper, this would work so much better. All right, and then for the red violet, I want you to think about red and violet. Which one's the lighter of the two colors? I would say red is lighter in value. So I'm going to start with the red and then add the violet to it. So I'm going to add some water right here. Start with the red. Rinse out my brush. I'm going to add just a little bit of the violet to it. I'm going to skip red orange and do yellow orange next because I can do the yellow orange like I do with the yellow green and do that one first and then just add more red to make it red orange. So I'm going to do that. So between yellow and orange, yellow is the lighter color. So I'm going to rinse out my brush, put some water here, get some yellow. Rinse off my brush, get some orange to add to my yellow. And that got really orange really fast. I'm gonna rinse it off and get some more yellow again. All right, that's a little bit lighter. That's gonna go in there for my, oh, I just realized I spilled that. It's gonna go in my yellow orange. And then to make that more of a red orange, it's already kind of orange. I guess I can add some more orange to it to make me feel like it's really orange. And then I'm gonna add some red to it to make it red orange. All right. I'm going to move that to the side for a second, give you a minute or two to catch up, and then I'm going to go back to the Google Slides and we're going to start looking at these questions right here and what we fill in. So once you get caught up with the paint, make sure you have a pencil or a pen, something that you can write with so you can start writing some of those answers in. All right, so the first thing that's written underneath everything we painted, it says colors that are on opposite sides of the color wheel are called, those are called complementary colors. So basically, complementary colors are they're just opposites. They look really different from each other. They contrast each other. It's almost like they vibrate when you put them beside each other. So yellow, if you look straight across the color wheel, it's purple. So yellow and purple are complementary colors. Blue and orange are complementary colors, and red and green are complementary colors. You can even get so far as to say the tertiary colors can be complements because yellow, green, and red, violet are complements. Yellow, orange, and blue, violet are complements, and blue, green, and red, orange are complements. So you can write underneath that, it says one pair of complementary colors are, you could put red and green, blue and orange. I'm going to put yellow and violet. Monochromatic. The word monochromatic means one color. Mono means one, and chrome means color, one color. To make a monochromatic painting, you use one color mixed with white and black to make different values. So if you look at this painting, the lighter shades of blue they're actually called tints. We're going to get into that later, but when you mix a white with a color, it makes a tint. When you mix black with a color, it makes a shade. So this side of the face are showing a variety of blue tints, and this side is showing blue shades. If you divide the color wheel in half, half of these colors feel warm and the other half feel cool or cold, whatever. Warm colors, examples of those, yellow, orange, and red. Yellow, orange, and red orange also count. But the three examples of warm colors are red, orange, and yellow, or yellow, orange, and red, whatever order you want to put them in. And yellow. So the warm colors are red, orange, and yellow. And then cool colors are green, blue, and purple. Three colors that are next to each other on the color wheel are called analogous colors. So think about when you've heard the word analogous. Analogy is a word that also comes from that word or is connected with that word. So when you're doing analogies and you compare two different things that are similar, that's what that means. Analogous colors are similar. So it could be these three colors are analogous. It could be these three colors are analogous. These three colors that are right beside each other on the color wheel are analogous colors. So that's usually gonna include two tertiaries and a primary, or two tertiaries and a secondary. So for example, well, I lied. It could also be a primary, secondary, and a tertiary. So yellow, yellow, orange, and orange. Or yellow, orange, orange, and red, orange. So we'll put that on the other side. Let's see. I'm gonna go back to my page so you can see that. So when you mix two primary colors together, when you mix two of these together, you get a secondary color. The colors between the primary colors on the color wheel, it should be between the primary and the secondary colors on the color wheel, are called tertiary or intermediate colors. So between yellow and green, you've got yellow, green. Between green and blue, you've got blue, green. Those are all tertiary colors. So write down two examples here. I think my favorite one is blue, green. I also like red, violet. You can put whatever two tertiary colors you want to put. All right. Hopefully, I've gone slow enough that if yours is front and back, you can flip it over and do the other side. But I think most of you guys just have a second paper. All right, so we went over complements already. Complementary colors are opposite on the color wheel. So there are three main pairs: yellow and purple, red and green, and orange and blue. So we're going to paint those pairs up at the top up here. So I'm going to rinse off my brush. I'm going to start with red. So I'm going to put red here And on the opposite of red is green. So I'm going to rinse the brush out and put green right here. And then in the middle, I'm going to put orange and blue. And if you guys switched up the order, it doesn't matter. So the opposite of orange is blue. And then the last pair is yellow and violet. Make sure you rinse it real good before you go in that yellow. All right, this is going to come up later in the slides, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you this now. So when we were looking at that monochromatic painting, it showed us when you add white to it, it gets lighter, and when you add black to it, it gets darker. When you add white to a color, it's called a tint. When you add black to a color, it's called a shade. The color's name is called the hue. I'm going to go back to the slides, but don't worry, I'm going to show you this again. So if you didn't get all that written, I'm going to come back to it in just a second. So when we're talking about a color, there's three things. It has three properties, three things about it that we can know. We have to know what name the color it is. So that's the hue. So hue and color are basically the same thing. That's the name of it. Is it red? Is it orange? Is it yellow orange? What's the hue? Value. Is it just a straight red orange? Does it have white mixed into it? Is it a light red orange? Does it have black mixed into it? Is it a dark red orange? So that's what value means. Intensity, how bright is it? Is it a bright color or a dull color? So we've already written down hue. Hue is the name of the color. Value is how light or dark a color is. So these are all kind of the greenish color, but this is like a lighter green, darker green. Intensity refers to how saturated, how intense the color is. So let's say you want to paint something this intense, this bright. You can't, if you have a color that's like this, you can't make it that color. You have to start with this color. You can make a color duller, but you can't make it brighter unless you have a brighter red you're adding to it. That's the only way you can make it brighter. So the intensity refers to how pure the color is. Is that red straight out of a tube of red, or have you mixed it with something else? Generally, when you mix two complements together, like red and green, when you mix a little bit of red, it's going to look like that. Gradually, it ends up being brown in the middle, but it makes it duller. So if you're ever trying to make a color less intense, you can add a little bit of the complement to it. So the value refers to how bright or how light or dark the color is. And the intensity is how bright or dull it is. So down here, what we're going to do, we're going to take two complementary colors. So it can be red and green, orange and blue, or yellow and purple, whichever pair you want. One side, you're going to use one color. So I'm going to do red and green. So I'm going to start red on this side, and my green's going to start on this side. My red is going to be as intense as it can be, but I'm gonna gradually make it lighter and lighter. And I'm gonna have like no red at the end. It's gonna kind of stop here. My green is gonna do the opposite. Bright green here, add more and more water and be less and less green, and they're gonna mix on top of each other in the middle. If you're using colored pencils or crayons, you're gonna color whatever your color is over here really hard and gradually color lighter as you move this way. Same thing. So choose which pair you're using, red and green, orange and blue, yellow and purple. So I'm doing red and green. I'm gonna start with the red. I'm gonna get a good amount of red on here, not a lot of water. And I'm gonna start, I'm right-handed, so I'm gonna start on this side. If you're left-handed, you may wanna start on this side because I'm gonna turn the paper upside down and go the other way. So I'm right-handed, I'm starting on this side. It's bright, bright red. There's not all that much water in it. I'm gonna gradually move to the right. Kind of up and down. And as I start to run out of paint on my brush, I'm not gonna dip it back in the paint of the watercolor set. So it's getting lighter and lighter because I'm running out of paint. I'm gonna dip it into the water. And just get like I'm gonna wipe most of the water off. I just got a little bit of water. That's all I got. And I'm gonna keep painting it. So now it's just a really, really light red. Don't try to go back and forth too much in the same area because your paper is gonna start getting crumbly. Especially because it's not watercolor paper, but eventually it'll do it with watercolor paper too. It's just the paper like starting to come up. So try not to go back and forth a lot. So I'm done with that. I'm gonna start my green on this side and go back the other way. But I'm gonna turn it around since it's just easier for me to go left to right because I'm right-handed. So I turned it upside down. So I'm gonna rinse all the red off. And I'm going to get a good amount of green, not much water, mostly just paint. And I'm going to be really careful not to stick my hand in this paint down here where I did my compliments. So be aware of that. And as I start running out of paint, then I'm going to get some water and wipe it off so it's not a whole bunch of water, just a little bit. And I'm going to keep painting. And now I'm going to stop. I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to catch up. Perfect. Very good. I think we're going to finish on time. All right, at the very bottom, we're going to do 3 analogous colors here and 3 analogous colors here. And if you remember, analogous colors are 3 colors that are beside each other on the color wheel. So yellow, yellow, green, and green, blue, blue, violet, violet, red, red, orange, and orange. I'm going to make it easy on myself because I mixed some colors here and they're still there. Even if yours dried, if you add a little bit of water to these, you can still use them. So since I've got red violet sitting right here, I'm going to use that as my middle color. I'm just going to rinse off my brush, wipe off the water, and put it back in here. And I'm going to use that as my middle color here. So if that's red violet, that means I'm going to put red over here and violet over here. I got a piece of fuzz. There it goes. All right, what else do I have here? I think this was red orange, so I could use this one and have red and orange be on the other side. I think this was blue violet, so I could use blue, blue violet, and violet. So whichever ones of these that you want to use, I think I'm going to use my red orange, the one that's right here. I'm going to put that in the middle here. And I'll put red on this side. And I'll put orange on the other side. All right, once you've gotten to this point, you are done. You can, when you're cleaning up, you can take this out and then you can just run this under the sink to clean this out and then dry it off and then put this back in here to keep everything nice and clean. Make sure you rinse your brush out really well too, and you can put that back in there. You're going to take a picture of each of those worksheets and upload those to Notes on Color.